What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back to another day in the Brew Lab with me, Lone Fox, your brewmaster in chief. Today in the Brew Lab, I'm coming at you from the Maritime Alps. I think you might have been able to tell from this new background behind me that I'm not in my usual spot. And for those of you who are avid listeners and avid watchers of the channel, you will know, since I did mention it yesterday, that my wife has taken me up into the Alps. I'm currently surrounded by pine trees. I am in the middle of nowhere. My cell phone is giving me a GPRS, the little E logo. I'm getting less than a megabyte per second on my hotspot. And for that reason, this video is not going out to y'all live, but I'm doing a first for the channel. I'm pre-recording and then uploading. But you can rest assured, excuse the runny nose, I just spent about 10 minutes sneezing. I went from sorry, getting kind of sidetracked there, but I just went from beach, literally the beach. My house was on the beach in the Mediterranean, sweating in my bed at night, in my boxes, lying there with a fan on, to over 1,000 meters of altitude and having to wear a hoodie again. And don't get me wrong, I prefer this to that. I like being cold. I'd rather just put on a hoodie and feel warm again than not being able to take anything more off and dying of heat. But yeah, it was just a huge change, and that's why I've got a bit of a snotty nose. But anyway, um, where was I? Nothing. Just mentioning the fact that this is not going out to y'all as a stream, but as a pre-recorded video. So I hope I don't make any bugger ups. I think there's probably actually less chance of me making a bugger up in this way than in the previous way. But anyway, we're gonna just have to give it a try, because in the future, of course, I've noticed many other content creators doing this type of thing. Notably, of course, one of my idols, Cobalt Go Blue, who, when he needs to go off and do something like, he's done a couple of events where he's the what's the word I'm looking for? The host, or not the host, but a commentator for an event. Then he'll pre-record a bunch of clips and then schedule them for upload on YouTube, and then he can take about a 3, 4, 5 day break. But his channel still keeps getting regular daily uploads in that way. And I think I'm gonna eventually. I mean, what if I jump on an aeroplane tomorrow and I need to fly to another country? This is gonna be, I hope, a mixture of deck tech, new brews, travel vlogs, yeah, something like that. Because I love magic, I love the internet, I love travel, and I'm gonna try and fuse all of these things together, slowly but surely, and also invest in some better equipment, and so that this camera isn't as grainy as it is. Also invest in a microphone so that you can hear me better. I have already commissioned a new logo for the channel that'll be ending up on the banner on the YouTubes. I'm asking friends to teach me how to use Final Cut Pro better, because I do actually know how to, but I want to learn the ins and outs a little bit better again, so that I can actually put in some nice transitions between the games and that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'm getting lost here. I'm giving you a little bit of an update on the future of the channel, when which is fine and all. But what I'm really here to do is bring out some some new decks for you, some fresh daily brews. And today, the fresh daily brews are gonna be 3. So this is one of those videos where like I didn't know exactly what I was going to play, and so instead of posting a bunch of nonsense games of me failing in the play queue and not exactly having something ready, I will come out and say straight away, honestly, that I don't. And so instead, I'm going to play all 3 of these decks that I've created, which I think by the end of the video, we will sort of make into one. They're all slightly different, but they're all slightly the same. And I think I will be able to show that to you quite easily in the next part of the clip, where I will dive into these 3 decks. Please ignore these. I'm actually just going to delete that one because that's a bit useless. How can we do this? Is there not a way to filter out? Okay, anyway. It's these 3. Rakdos Treasure, Rakdos Dragons, Rakdos Dwarves. They're all Rakdos Treasure decks, essentially. And, yeah. But I hope that, and my goal is for this video to play all 3 of them, figure out which cards in them are the best, and which combinations of those cards are the best, and then just go whoop, and fuse the 3 decks into one. And then by the time that I post this video, I will include the EtherHub link for the final deck and the copyable deck text underneath this video. So before we dive into the games, if I could ask you all kindly to please consider, if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to break that 100 subscriber mark. This is like the freshest channel as far as Magic the Gathering arena content is concerned. I think I am one of the newest guys on the scene. I'm really trying my best, and every single subscriber is very relevant. I celebrate every time it goes up by a single one. So yeah, if you could kindly subscribe to the channel, especially if you, I mean, of course I wouldn't ask you to do that if you hate the content or you don't play Magic, but if you like this stupid face and you think my decks are entertaining and fresh and inspire you, most importantly, then consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help me out. And then, of course, all the other stuff that the YouTube algorithm loves: liking, subscribing, commenting, hitting the bell notification icon. Those things. Do them all, please. Thank you. Boom. Done. That's out of the way. Let's jump into some games. Well, before we jump into the games, I'm not gonna, if I had to do a deck tech for each one of these decks, we would be here for 2 hours. So I'm just gonna, I think at this point, most people that follow my channel know the cards that I'm about to show you. If there's anything new specifically that's maybe a little bit obscure and underplayed or unplayed from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, I will just give a little extra explanation on that. But I think most of the cards in these decks, all of you have already at least seen once or know exactly what they are. So I'm just gonna do like a more brief overview. The first one we've got here is Rakdos Treasures, where instead of focusing too much on the dragons, we're definitely focusing a lot more on the treasures thing. So, this new card in here, Forsworn Paladin, is great for that. It's a groovy new 1-drop. I featured it in my Knights of Venture deck with the Knights and the Venture into the Dungeon mechanic, which didn't perform too well at all, but was a pretty cool deck regardless. It's a great little 1-drop. If you're trying to make treasures in black or anything, Rakdos, Mardu, you name it, anything that has black in it, and you want to be making treasures, I think you should seriously consider Forsworn Paladin. I mean, the only other alternative I'll show you in the next deck is that zombie guy, but it requires a death trigger to create the treasure, whereas this, not only can you, for 3, okay, so let me read it. It's a 1-drop, 1 black, 1/1, rare, human knight, Forsworn Paladin. It has menace, and you can pay 2 and tap it, and you pay 1 life, create a treasure token. So a little bit of kind of ramp on turn 2 in black, which is rare. And I mean, the typical black downside, you usually pay 1 life to do anything in black. So kind of on theme with the color pie and everything like that. And it has a second ability, which says that you can pay 3, 2 colorless and 1 black without tapping, which is great. So you can do it multiple times. And target creature gets +2, +0 until end of turn. And if a treasure was spent to activate this ability, then that creature also gains Death Touch until end of turn. So pretty cool. That's less used, but can be used. Sometimes there's definitely some cases where it's a very, very good ability. But mostly it's in here to ramp and for us to be creating treasure tokens on turn 2 so that we can then ramp into something else later. Then we've got 3 copies of Bloodchief's Thirst because we're playing standard 2022 play queue. So there's a little bit of an issue with removal. There's very few sweepers, and it's not an issue. I think it's quite refreshing. It's given mid-range decks a breath of fresh air after these months and months of being relegated to the unplayable sort of situation. Right now, with this new play queue and the fact that things like Extinction Event are not available, Heartless Act is not available. Man, there's so many. I just can't even think of all of them right now. But like, there's a lot of clearly missing key pieces in removal, which has made it so that there's, I don't know, it's just a whole new meta. It's hard to explain. I think those of you that have been playing it have felt the difference. There's a significant, different vibe to it. It's less it's less control-y. Now the control decks are just starting to creep in with like the Swarming Skeleton enchantment, Lawless, some Dimir things, but because of the mana bases also being so wonky, and the fact that there's not as many good sweepers, mid-range is taken off. But I went off on a tangent here. I started talking about Bloodchief's Thirst, but essentially it's the same point. Removal is weird. There's, this is the new premier 2-mana instant speed removal, and it's in red. Heartless Act, the new Heartless Act is that something word. But it doesn't hit angels, it doesn't hit demons, it doesn't hit dragons, which is kind of like very much played right now. So it's often a useless card in your hand, and that's why it's not seeing that much play. And there isn't anything else that makes up for it right now. So Bloodchief's Thirst is like suddenly had this new re-emergence as like the premier removal piece. Not only is it cheap, so you can target planeswalkers or creatures to the mana value of 2 or less on turn 1 and turn 2 for just 1 black mana, but then later on in the game you can cast it for its kickers and pay 4 and remove any creature or planeswalker. So I'm going with 3 copies of Bloodchief's Thirst because it is that good. I mean, I was running it even before this new play queue anyway. It's a great removal piece. But then, instead of Extinction Event, we are forced to deal with Sphere of Annihilation, which is weird. It's a kind of weird card. I still haven't quite figured out the tempo when it is that I'm supposed to be playing this. So Sphere of Annihilation enters the battlefield with X void counters on it. So let's just say you pay 4 for this. So it's 3 void counters plus 1 to cast it. It comes into play as an artifact, and it sits there until the following turn. At the beginning of your next upkeep, exile Sphere of Annihilation and all creatures and planewalkers with mana value less than or equal to the number of void counters on it, and all creatures and planewalker cards in graveyards. So it's, in that sense, it's similar to Shadow's Verdict, in that it actually gets rid of them completely from the game, not just from the board, but from graveyards as well. So keep that in mind when you're using this, because especially in this deck, and this is why I need to bring this up, because I'm actually thinking about cutting it, because we've got, anyway, I'll explain why in a moment, but just be aware of that. It gets rid of things in graveyards as well, so there's no reanimating anything later down the line. Be careful when you cast this for 4 or 5, because if one of your Goldspans is in the graveyard and the following turn, or your following upkeep, when it does its thing, you're going to lose those from your graveyard. They will not longer be able to be reanimated. So I think the main reason why I'm running this in here is because I need a sweeper. We don't have Draconic Intervention because I'm running too many non-dragons. And there's nothing else in these colors that is in the standard 2022. So you're probably trying to cast this for, like, at the most 3 or 4. 3. I think 3. At 3, it will mean that if you've lost your Forsworn Paladin, or even if you haven't, it's still in the battlefield, or your Kalain, or your Xorn, they're going to be gone for the rest of the game. So be careful when you cast this spell. I think it's really there if you're, like, not curling out, you're having a horrible draw. Then you can cast it to control your, goblin decks, your mono white weenies decks, your mono green to a certain extent with all their tokens and small creatures. Zap, and then you kind of continue from there. But the real kind of use for this card that I've seen, and I think where it will find its place in the future in control decks, and less in creature decks, in my opinion, is that it gives you a bit of time. So you can cast this for whatever. The point is that it's there, and your opponent, unless they've got artifact removal, isn't going to cast any creature that is of that mana value, unless it's higher, of course, then they can. But usually you're trying to play it at the point in the game where they're about to go turn 4 and maybe cast a 3-drop or a couple of 2-drops or whatever, and they cannot, because they know that the following turn, when it's your upkeep, they're going to disappear. And so it gives you a little bit of breathing space. The following turn, it goes off, and then you can do your turn 4 play, and they haven't done anything, and then they need to catch up to you. So it's a weird sort of like a stalling sweeper. I don't know if that makes any sense. I hope that I explained that clearly, but I think it's pretty obvious. Next up, there's a lot of enchantments. All of the classes are enchantments. So because we're playing Rakdos and there's no enchantment removal, Feed the Swarm is a must-have. But a 2 of only, because you don't want to be using this as removal for creatures and things, because you're going to be losing the life equal to that permanent's mana value. So just a couple of copies of Feed the Swarm. Sometimes you get it in your hand, which is great, and then your opponent is playing your Bard's class or Ranger's class or whatever it is, and you can just get rid of it. And only pay 2 mana, two to do that. Next up, we have 4 copies of Dragon's Fire. I love this card. It's like 2 mana, instant speed, 3 damage. That's the base. But if you have a dragon and you reveal it, either in your hand or in play, then it can, in this deck, particularly only, the ceiling is 4 damage, because I don't have any dragons that are bigger than 4, although... And this brings me to the next card, Kalain, Reclusive Painter. When Kalain, Reclusive Painter enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each mana from a treasure spent to cast them. So if you cast the Goldspan on top of, later in the game, and you've got like Kalain in play and like, let's say, 3 or 4 treasures, and you make it so that the majority of the Goldspan casting cost comes from treasures, then it comes into play with that many +1/+1 counters on it. At that point, if your Goldspan is a 5/5 or a 6/6, and then you cast Dragonfire, then of course you can, what do they say here? Target. No, if you if you choose the dragon as you cast a spell, then it deals equal damage to its power. So it can get bigger, but I think mostly let's consider this as a 2 mana 4 damage instant speed removal, which is great. Kalain I just read. Plundering Barbarian is great because we've got artifact removal, enchantment removal. This is artifact removal, stapled onto a 2/2 dwarf barbarian body for 3 that can also create a treasure token if we do not need to remove artifacts. So great kind of modal little card there, which I've been finding a lot of use for, and you will see in the next one, the Rakdos Dwarf Treasures deck, where this comes in. Then we're running 3 copies of Xorn. If you would create 1 or more treasure tokens, instead create those tokens plus an additional treasure token. So this is Rakdos Treasure decks. Of course, we want to have this. It's a little bit weak as a 3/2. We're probably not going to be doing much attacking with it. It just needs to sit on the battlefield and make sure that every time we make treasures, there's more of those treasures coming. And that's why I'm running 3 copies of them. It's also not legendaries. You can stack the effect and have multiple copies of them on the battlefield, so keep that in mind. Next up, we have a upgraded version of Seize the Spoils, Unexpected Windfall. It costs 1 more mana to cast, but it's instant speed, and instead of creating 1 treasure token like Seize the Spoils, this creates 2. But the rest is exactly the same. So it Seize the Spoils with +1 mana and creating 2 treasure tokens instead of 1. Every other part of the card is exactly the same. Of course, and then it's instant speed. So you can cast this at your opponent's end step just before your draw phase. You suddenly untap with 6 mana available. That's pretty good. And you get to draw 2 new cards. I'm loving this card. I think it will see a lot of play, and definitely in my decks more and more and more. Next up, a new card, one I have not featured at all since the new set dropped. Orcus, the Prince of Undeath, legendary creature demon. This one needs a full proper read because it's a little bit weird. So it's a Frampler, flying trample. 5/3, costs 4 mana. 2 colorless, 1 black, 1 red. And there's an X in there. So the X means that either when it enters the battlefield, you choose 1. Either each creature gets -X, each other creature, so not Orcus himself, everything else that's on the battlefield, gets -X until end of turn, and then you lose X damage. So, X life. So if you cast this for 4, let's say 8, so the X is 8, the X is 4. Then all the other 4/4s on the battlefield die, and lower, and you only take 4 damage for potentially wiping the field. So that side of it alone is pretty good and could probably warrant me removing 1 or 2 copies of Sphere of Annihilation and upping this by 1 and maybe something else. But more on that in a future video or future deck. But the second part of, or the second option is the one that interests me the most. You can return up to X creature cards with total mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and they gain haste until end of turn. Okay? So if you do cast this for 7, you can bring back Plundering Barbarian, Xorn, Kalain, and Forsworn Paladin. Okay? Total mana. Okay, my bad. Total mana value X or less. So let's say you cast it for 3, you can do Kalain and a Forsworn. If you cast it for 4, you can do a Xorn and a Forsworn. Or let's say Kalane and 2 Forsworns. Or you get my point. It's pretty sweet. You can bring things back to the battlefield. I think Kalane is a particularly good target because it has an ETB trigger, but also Plundering Barbarian as well is a pretty good target. I don't think that we'll be casting this for 9 that often, although with all this treasure creation, it isn't too far-fetched. And if we do it for 9, that means we can bring back also a Goldspan Dragon. So, cool new card. I'm trying to see if it works. We'll see by playing the games whether it's worthwhile or not. And then, of course, at the top end, you know, a treasure deck. You cannot be running a treasure deck without running at least 4 copies of Goldspan Dragon. We all know and love this beautiful, beautiful card. Flying Haster, 4/4 for 5, 3 and 2 red. Whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. And all the treasure tokens you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, and add 2 mana of any one color instead of 1. Then, mana base, a little bit tough. Rakdos, there is no snarls. So instead of the snarls, I'm running 4 treasure vaults as it is a treasure deck. So a new card from the AFR, it says that you can pay X, X is 2, so everything needs to be divisible by 2. So the least that X can be is 2. And then, you know, you go up from there, 4, 6, 8. And so you pay 8, you get 4 mana, 4 tokens. If you pay 10, you get, or, you know, plus 1, you know, plus it, the treasure vault itself. Then you make, so let's say you tap 11, including the vault itself, and then you sacrifice it, you create 5 treasure tokens. Which, if you have Goldspan in play, is equal to 10 mana of any 2 colors. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool colorless land. I like it. And then, of course, 4 pathways and then 8 of each. I wish there was another way around this, some sort of a better thing to run in this position, but there just isn't. There's no fabled passages, there's no triomes, there's no well, there's the snow lands, but they come into play tapped, and I'm not running any snow cards, so I'm unplayable in this deck in particular. Alright, so that's the one. Now that I've kind of gone over that one, the following 2 decks are going to be much quicker to explain, because they're very similar, but with slight differences. So, the next one is Rakdos Dragons. This is definitely way more dragony. Again, Forsworn Paladin, Plundering Barbarian, Goldspan Dragon. Okay, those are the same cards in here. But now we've oh, and of course Dragon's Fire. But now we've added a couple of differences. So we're leaning a little heavier on the dwarf tapping thing from Magda. So Magda is we know from Kaldheim. It's a legendary dwarf berserker, and all other dwarves you control get +1/+0, and whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, you create a treasure token. And you sacrifice 5 treasures, you can search your library for an artifact or a dragon card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So we have other dwarves. We have the Skullport Merchant and the Plundering Barbarian. This is the first black dwarf I've seen, ever. Which is great, because then, you know, it kind of helps out with this Rakdos vibe. Not only that, it's a tapless sacrifice thing. I mean, you needed to pay 2 to do that, 1 colorless and a black, to sacrifice another creature and or a treasure and draw a card. But yeah, I quite like that. Think about it. A Rakdos playable dwarf, the first black dwarf in standard in a long time. So because of that, and because it has an ETB trigger which creates a token, and so does the Plundering Barbarian, as well as having the added optional ability to destroy an artifact, suddenly this becomes a 3/3, this becomes a 2/4, if Magda is in play, and when you're tapping them, they're creating treasure tokens. And beg your pardon. And yeah, I mean that's about it. Isn't that incredible? We have new dwarves that are worthwhile playing. They count as ramp by creating treasure tokens on entering the battlefield. Then the next turn, when you attack with them, if you do, you can create more treasures via Magda. And they're not just pathetic attackers anymore. You know, a three power attacker isn't anything to be laughed at, and a 2/4 is also nothing to be laughed at. It's a great blocker. So pretty stoked with this. What else? That's new in the deck. So Haunting Voyage, just a one-off. You can bring back all the dwarves in one go. You can bring back all your dragons in one go. You just foretell it, and then you pay 7, and you can return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. Or you can just cast it for 5 and bring back 2 creatures that don't have the same creature type, which is pretty cool as well. In case you're not going to get up to that 7, you need to cast it now to get some threats on the field. You can bring back a Goldspan and a Dwarf, or a Goldspan and an Immersturm. So pretty cool little card there. I could probably run 2 copies, but I don't know what else to drop. Then, because there's a little bit of a tribal theme, you know, it's either a lot of dwarves or a lot of dragons, we can run Crippling Fear, because you just choose the one that isn't the thing that you have on the field, and zoop, it wipes those out. So pretty cool. And yeah, the new additions on top of that are Ebondeath Dracolich, the new legendary zombie dragon, mythic, 4 mana with flash, 2 and 2 black, for a flying 5/2 that can be brought back from the graveyard, or cast from the graveyard if a creature not named Ebondeath Dracolich died this turn. So the way I've been seeing this mostly is as a blocker, okay? But you need to be blocking something that is also going to die. So the opponent's going, oh look, I'm trading. They swing in because they assume that you don't want to lose your Dracolich. You still have 4 mana untapped, okay? It's your blocking phase, opponent's turn. You have 4 mana available to flash this in, okay? You block something. That means that both the Dracolich and the thing you block die. Because that thing died, and not just the Dracolich, you can instantly flash it back into play and have it untap at the beginning of your upkeep. So it's a really good card, and I'm just still trying to figure out exactly the best way to play it, but it's a really good card. 5/2 flying with flash that can be constantly reanimated, brought back to play for 4 is great. And I'm hoping that this is the right shell for it, and we will figure that out as we play the games tonight. But I'm running 3 copies of the new Ebondeath Dracolich. Then we've got 3 copies of the Immersturm Predator. Also a dragon, vampire dragon with flying, 3/3. Whenever it becomes tapped, exile 1 target card from a graveyard and put a +1/+1 counter on Immersturm Predator. You can also sacrifice another creature, and it gains indestructible. So, later in the game, you can quite happily sacrifice these little dwarfy guys and maybe the Forsworn Paladin. Anywhere we might have a chance to bring them back to the battlefield with Haunting Voyage. And if not, you've made your Predator indestructible. And that's always a good thing, most times. So keep that in mind. Another great 4-drop in the dragon thing that I have not found a proper home for. I'm hoping that finally, with the emergence of this Rakdos Dragon shell, that it's time for it to shine. And here's Power Word Kill. I did bring it up in the previous deck tech. It's the new Heartless Act, or 2 mana black instant speed removal, except non-angels, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon. There's 4 creature types that are very prevalent in the current meta that it just doesn't hit. So I'm just hoping not to go up against it. I'm testing it out. Also because we needed some more removal, and I didn't want to just run Bloodchief's Thirst again, just to try and, like I said, we're going to then fuse all these 3 decks together into one at the end of this video. So let's see if it's good. I don't think it is, but let's run it in this one and test it out. So that's our removal, Power Word Kill, Dragon's Fire, and then Crippling Fear. And that's it. That's the deck. And then, of course, Goldspan Dragon, because it's treasures and Rakdos and dragons. I've got one addition in here in the mana base, which is the Temple of the Dragon Queen, which I think is actually pretty damn good. Okay, so it enters the battlefield tapped if you don't reveal a dragon card. But if you do reveal a dragon card, then it comes into play untapped, essentially. That's about it. As far as the I beg your pardon, coming into play thing. Of course you want it to be untapped, but you need to have a dragon either in hand or, in hand. That's the only way. So the dragon can't be in play. The dragon has to be in your hand, and when you play the Temple of Dragon Queen, you reveal it, and then it comes to play untapped, and then you can choose any mana color, and for the rest of the game, this land will produce that color. So I think if you're playing any sort of dragon deck, this might actually be really, really good to replace the fact that we don't, let's say, for example, in Rakdos, have any blooming snarls to rely on. So this makes the mana base a lot nicer, in my opinion. 6 and 6 instead of 8 and 8 in the other one. 4 pathways, 4 Temple of the Dragon Queen, and then 4 treasure vaults again, because we are trying to make treasures like crazy and bring out gold spans really quickly and have mana for all kinds of shenanigans. So that's version 2. Version 3, relying way more on the dwarf thing and a little less on the dragon thing. So Shambling Ghast I brought in instead of the other knight guy, what was the name? Forsworn Paladin. So instead of Forsworn Paladin, I'm running 4 copies of Shambling Ghast, which says that when it dies, you can choose one. Either you can give a target creature an opponent controls -1/-1 until end of turn, or you can search the body and create a treasure token. This is great. You know why? Because of Skullport Merchant. It says that you can pay 2 and sacrifice another creature or a treasure, and you draw a card. So you sacrifice Shambling Ghast to the Skullport Merchant, create a treasure, and draw a card. Well, that's not bad. Then we're running again Power Word Kill, but only 3 copies in this one. 4 copies Dragonfire, and no other removal. So we're really kind of a little bit more aggro-y on this one, a little less control-y. There's only 7 pieces of removal in the deck. So to make up for that, instead of having the fear, whatever sweeper, or other kind of sweepers that I can think of, we're running Feign Death, which is a great new card, and I think we need to find a new home for this one that might not be this deck in particular, but this is a cool card. I mean, it's way better than Malkia's Rebirth. It's better than a lot of the similarly costed instant speed cards that do the same thing. Basically, it means that if a creature dies, okay, so it's not being exiled, if it goes into your graveyard, it'll come straight back into the battlefield tapped, but it has a +1/+1 counter on it, and it's instant speed. So you can select Goldspan Dragon, which means you also create a treasure token because it's being targeted by a spell. And then if they're targeting it with some instant speed removal or any sort of removal, it'll come back to the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, and you've also created an additional treasure token. So Feign Death, great way to save the creatures that you don't want to die. Instead of having hexproof, instead of having indestructible, you just Feign Death, lie there for a little while, and then come back with a bigger and better and stronger. So I love this card, and I think it's a worthy addition to the deck. and I think it will find its home in other decks, which we will continue to test as the meta progresses. But Feign Death, check it out. Next up, Deadly Dispute. It's another one of these new black treasure creators. It's essentially village rights that makes treasures, which costs an extra 1 to cast. I hope that makes sense. So draw 2 cards by sacrificing a creature. But in this case, you can also target an artifact. So it's not just creatures, it's also artifacts. And you don't just draw 2 cards, you also create a treasure token. But it does cost 1 more mana to cast. 1 colorless, 1 black, instant speed. Deadly Dispute. I like it. Kind of fits the theme. We're trying to make treasures. We're trying to cast dragons quickly. We need a card draw. Here we go. Deadly Dispute. And then we've got the little dwarf package. The new Rakdos dwarf package. 3 of each. We've just talked about this in the previous deck. I don't need to go over it again. In this version, I'm only running 1 Dracolich, 2 Predators, and then we're trying to reuse the Orcus again. So slightly less dragons, back to the Prince of Undeath, because we really want to be bringing back Shambling Ghast, and or you know, maybe we can cast it for 8 again, like I said, and bring back a Plundering Barbarian and a Shambling Ghast, or for 9 and we can bring back a Plundering Dwarf and a Magda. But it's kind of helps us with a little bit of reanimation, and it's a 5/3 Frampler. So we're trying this one in the dwarfy version as well. And then yeah, the same dragons as before, but just in different numbers. And then I put 1 copy of Unexpected Windfall in here, just to, maybe we just didn't draw the dragons by turn 4, and we can cast this, like I said, on the opponent's end step, make a couple of treasure tokens, and draw 2 cards by discarding 1. And of course, just discarding Ebondeath is pretty good, because it's essentially like an escape card. It'll appear there. Big party. We used to discard escape cards. They would just flip and go straight there into your, I don't even know what that area is called, but it means that it can be cast again, and you can see it there. You'll be reminded of it whenever it is castable. It will pew. So whenever something else dies, be it on your board or their board, you can bring back the Ebondeath. And that's the deck. Those are the 3 decks. I'm going to play them in order. I'm going to do like 2 games on each and see how they perform on the play queue, and then we might take the final version onto the rank queue. Let's jump into the games. Little gin tonic tonight. Yeah. Ooh, that's good. Ooh, that's good. Pretty chilly. And that is definitely warming me up. Okay, we've got no red mana, but who cares? It's unranked after all, and we do have a turn 1 and potentially turn 2 player. So let's play the Forsworn Paladin. Let's draw a red. Nice little draw there. Oh god, that is horrible. Oh well, that's fine. Thank you for the red mana. I like the red mana. Three, 4. Probably just create another treasure token next turn. Some sort of mirror match. Aramil issued a long heroic challenge, then the Lich felled him with a single word. Sick. Okay, it's Goldspan time. Your power word isn't gonna do jack shiz right now. Although, if I mean, there's so many. Soul Shatters one. Oh yeah, I know the part. The matchmaker is so whacked on unranked. The amount of times you're playing a mirror is quite ridiculous. Why would you do something like that? Yeehaw! That was just luck, or not such good player. We definitely need to probably give each deck a good 2 games, 3 games each. I don't want to go too long, or this video will never get uploaded in time. Orion face. The one good thing about this is that my laptop isn't overheating anymore. 80 degrees. Ooh, that's a cool 80 degrees. Okay, that is a horrible hand to keep. We are definitely mulling that one. I think we can get rid of. You feed the swarm. That's just lovely. Just keeping up. Okay. Thank God. I thought he was going to keep up a counter spell, but that is not the case. Now watch this. Watch this. When did you last see a 6/6 Goldspan, baby? Okay, for a second there. Ooh, double biomathematician. Sure thing, buddy. This is kind of one weird usage. Like, I'm obviously willingly sacrificing these 2 guys, but now I can block with them liberally. Why would you cast that if it's gonna be... Okay, so Orvar is gonna stick around. I'll still win next turn. Weird. Man, I've seen some... I think, those of you who follow the channel, last night, I played this deck, which has got my brewer's juices just a-flowing. What was his name? Well, I mean, it's Orvar and the Valkyrie, the angel cleric thing that makes you gain life when an angel or a cleric enters the battlefield. some ridiculous combo with Orvar, and there's so many more 1-mana instants that will proc the Orvar thing when you target one of your creatures. In Bant colors mostly. Incredible. I got shredded both times, like in ranked, so I might be having to have a look at that one. My buddy Greg asking me to join his you know, well, I'm already part of his Facebook group, Burning Tempest. I highly recommend y'all join up. It's on Facebook. Just you know, if you're into like tightly knit, small arena and paper magic communities on Facebook, without too many people and the toxic comments about you know, fuck mill decks and then go check them out. They're really cool people, nice, lovely people. Like mostly, like I mean, there's only like 400-500 members, but the main thing I've noticed is like just genuinely like nice human beings. They've just asked me to become one of their you know, content creators for the group, and I said yes, I would love to. So more on that in the future. The offer was just made to me this evening, and I don't know the full ins and outs of it yet, but honestly, why not? I love making content, I love magic, I like their group, I like Greg. Let's do it. Let's do it, I told him. So there we go, Forsworn Paladin doing its thing. Turn 2, make a treasure. Unfortunately, we don't draw a dragon, so let's make another treasure. What do you guys reckon? Like, please, kindly, leave me some comments down below. What do you think is the best combination of these? I've been really struggling. Nah. Like, I do really want a cool Rakdos deck that has treasures and dragons in it. And, yeah, neither of these three performed as well as I would have liked them to on the ranked queue. And so that's why I thought I would make this video and discuss it with my audience, however small it might be at these early stages of my YouTube channel. But I just would love your feedback. What would you play instead? Ooh, I forgot about this card. I remember previewing this in the spoiler season. Boulette. Anyway, interesting. This is interesting, especially in a Rakdos, maybe Jund sacrificey things. Oh God, what's going on? Why? I have internet, don't I? So a little bit painful to take that 4 damage, but yeah, didn't really want to see him go crazy. Good. weird noise coming out of my computer. Computer? Hopefully it's not a werewolf. Mate! Slightly flooding? Or what? Holy shit balls. Like, all the lands. 3 non-lands in the top. I don't know how many cards in my deck. Ooh. Total bullshit card, which people are using for some reason. One, two, three, four. So we can do X2. Come on, Goldspan. Aren't people bored of Scoot Swarm yet? Come on. Mate! What the fuck is going on? Sometimes I really, I mean, variants. This would happen in real life too, and not just in paper. I mean, in you know, in arena, it's also a paper thing that happens. Yeah, whatever. Good game. Okay, so that's one. Let's try the other. Come on, internet, don't fail me now. I've literally got like 2 bars of really bad Wi-Fi from like the house that next door. Rakdos Dragons featuring Magda. What's her full name? The Brazen Outlaw or something like that. Oh yeah, Nutella cookies. Such a good flavor. Perfect stranger. The perfect stranger. What the hell is that? Mulligan. Not that much better, to be honest. That's better. Play the red, so we have Dragon's Fire 3 available. Ooh! Nice. Ooh, this should go in the other one as well. I find game like Bone Crusher Giant, take the damage, get rid of those things. They're annoying enough as it is. Need 2 black for the voyage. For telling something. Okay, now we can make this guy indestructible by sucking this sacking the Skullport merchant. I like these sleeves, mate. Looks like Mardu dragons, which is pretty badass. Still haven't tried that one yet. Hopefully he's got no reanimating things going on. I feel like this might be the better one. And what can we take from the others and bring into this one for it to really coalesce into a proper tier deck? I am still not sure, but so far from playtesting, this feels like it's the best one. I feel like I've kind of already answered my own question. You know, that I posed at the beginning of this video. I think that probably the one with the more dwarves in it, making the treasures, and a little bit more dragon heavy without the demon guy is probably the way to go. And then we'll just have to find a new home for that demon guy, because I do really like the card and I think it's pretty friggin' amazing. But I mean, I think in the current standard, not standard 2022, when you still have things like Croxa and stuff to bring back, it's incredibly good. But in standard 2022, I'm still uncertain on that card. That's a great opening hand. Removal, ramp, turn 1 and 2 play. I like it. Usually, you know, a 2-land hand is not something that I would pick up, but with treasures, that isn't any longer much of a problem. Yeah, I was expecting the ranger class there. Instead, we got a woodland mystic card that nobody knows about because it's absolute bullshit. Another sentinel. I'm gonna keep letting the damage come through, although I have a feeling we're looking into a blizzard brawl right now. Almost guaranteed. Blizzard brawl. Rabbit bite. Okay. Okay. This is when the unranked queue shows its true colors. We need to draw a land, otherwise we're going to start getting to work with the removal. If we draw a land, we can Goldspan and remove something. Probably the Boreal Outrider, as it's making everything come into play with additional counters. Okay, so it's some mono green snow elf thing. Yeah, yo! Bit of lag? Bit of lag? Or just the opponent? There we go. Nah, it's definitely lag. Oh no. That was a mistake of note. Let's see. We're gonna block something. And okay, well I can kill it. That's not bad. Next turn we get rid of this guy. It's like it's you know, it's so, it brings joy to my heart when certain cards leave the meta and it just suddenly just allows the way to a whole new thing. Like this card was just, no one even would have thought twice about playing it. 3-drop that has 2 toughness when you're playing against Bone Crusher Giant. Why bother? Suddenly, woo! I'm a Bone Crusher. All of these new decks have just sprung up out of nowhere. Okay. Unranked play shenanigans. Okay, that's enough. Black. We can give the Barbarian Death Strike. I mean Death Touch if he... Nah. Oh, come on, mate. What a top deck. Nice. Another Paladin. Yeah, we've got enough mana. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can also make 2 more treasure tokens. The only issue with this is we're not running any what's the card I'm thinking of? The Kalane, the painter. Oh, for crying out loud, man. That is not the first game this is happening to us. But okay, I think whatever. God damn. Oh, for Christ's sake. Opponent's getting all the top deck action in the world, and we are getting nothing. thought you would. $12. Dragon, off the top. I swear to God, if we get another land. Dude, what the fuck is wrong with this shit? I mean, come on, mate. What are the chances of that happening? Seriously. Like, someone run the math for me. That's like a 1 in a billion. God. The shuffler is fine, y'all. The shuffler is just fine. One more with this one. Then we can swap to the other one. While the game queues, I shall pour myself another gin and tonic. By the way, I do not condone any sort of drinking. Fortunately, my video is not intended for anyone under the age of 18. But I do like me a gin and tonic every now and again. Yeah. Alright. Okay. We have ourselves a quitter. Oh, no. Nice. Nice. It's looking like Prismari dragons. That sucks. We be gold spanning. So be day. Incredible. How many dragons there are this day and age. We're winning the race. Although they might cost the 6-mana guy now. The Inferno of Starmount. Leyline Tyrant. Now this is a dragon that I like. I think it's gonna see some play. Things might change along the way. And we might see some more Leyline Tyrant. because there's a lot of treasures. Okay. Can you believe it? Can you believe this shit? Alright, so that's a nice deck. Leyline being included there. It's either a way to keep your unused red mana open. Wow. Imagine you have... No, you can't use Galazeth. You still have to destroy the tokens. But still. You destroy them, but they don't go anywhere. Because the ley line's in play. You keep doing that, and then you play the Starmounts guy, and suddenly you have a bunch of mana there that you can pump into the Starmount. And if that doesn't happen, then at least you can use that mana to do the thing with the Leyline Tyrant. Interesting. We'll have to have a look at that as well. And then, last but not least, Rakdos Dwarves. Let's see how this one performs. Little ham cubes. Only in France. Jambon. Le jambon. No red. But we've got some ghasts. So tasty. Dude, this is the same guy we just played. We just played this guy. How? What are the chances of that shit? Like, really? 1 in a bajillion? We just played this guy in unranked. What the hell? Galazeth. Can't use power word on him. Fuck's sake. No, I said all attack. Oh no, mate. Phew. just played this dude. What, you know, nobody needs red mana for any reason whatsoever, of course. It's totally useless. That is mind-boggling. Millions of people playing the game. The algorithm matches me up against the exact same guy with the exact same deck. You know, that really goes a long way to show to you how rigged the whole thing is. In unranked. Yes, dude. You need to think. I get it. Oh no, it's not even him. It's me. It's my internet. Goldspan Dragon or something like that. What the This deck and the mono green ranger class, most played decks right now, for sure. You know, a red land would be quite nice, actually. God. See why Power Word Kill is a crap card? I can't believe they made this uncommon. Like, why would anyone play this shit? There's so many dragons and angels in the format that it's just a crap card, period. Did not deserve the uncommon badge in my opinion. I'm starting to think Grixis is the best version of this. Alright. Alright. Oh. Just realized that was halfway off my screen. I'll do one of these. Woohoo! I'm hanging on a wall. Alright, last game. Then we're going to call it quits. Otherwise, I will never get this video uploaded. It's way too big. Especially on this internet connection. What the what? What the hell are the chances of that, man? Seriously. The same exact opponent 2 games in a row in unranked standard 2022 with different decks. Like, wow, unbelievable. That's not bad. I kind of love, like, I'm stuck in this habit of, like, checking the battlefield. I'm like, is there a Yorion? How many decks, how many cards in this deck? No. All of that shit is gone. It's a brave new world. Running my Rakdos sleeves, baby. It's gonna be Prismari Dragons again for the 3rd game in a row. Here comes a frostbite in my face. No? If this thing was instant speed, I would run it in my Prismari Dragons deck, but I don't know. I still prefer the, and like CGB would disagree with me and many others, I still prefer the new dragon artifact thingy majig. Please don't flood. Please don't flood. Not today. Cool thing about Feign Death is if he goes for the skull port, he can remake that token. And it gets bigger. Hee Yeah, it's definitely Prismari Dragons. Everybody just scoops and unranked. Guilty! Alright, 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 alright. So, now we've played at least 3 games on each 3 of the decks that I proposed. How are we gonna make this into the best possible version, okay? I want to play Kalane. Does that mean we're not playing Magda? Because if you're not playing Jaspera Sentinel, and you're not playing any other dwarves, then Magda is a bit of a crock of crap, to be honest. Like, also, should we leave Orcus in or not? Do we play Xorn instead of the 3-drop dwarf guy? Should we play some other reanimator spell instead of Orcus, so that we can bring back our Kalane if necessary? Should we play this one and get rid of the spheres and put in more dragons or something? Should we make it into a Jund list and throw in some green? I don't know. What I'm going to do is call it a night, because this video is now running way too long for me to be able to upload it in any sort of sensible fashion. And I will post a little tiny update tomorrow as to which of these three ends up being the one I want to keep, and whether I modify it in any way, shape, or form. I think that's the best way to go about this. So again, not again, for the first time, thank you all so much for watching. It means so much to me that your eyeballs are on this monitor right now and you're watching my content. Honestly, you are the best people. I love you all to pieces. And I'm gonna go to bed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow with another fresh brew. And this is the Lone Fox from the Brew Lab, signing out. Peace, y'all.